My name is Sandy Stuttgen. I'm a livestock educator for UW-Madison Division of Extension, and I'm also a veterinarian. This is the second part of the presentation given during the 2025 School for Beginning Beef Production, which discussed building beef feeders, veterinary, biosecurity, and record-keeping skills. Compared to the circular cow-calf annual production cycle, fed cattle production is linear, from receiving cattle, growing them over their feeding phases, and shipping to harvest. We discussed receiving cattle protocols during the first part of this presentation. Now our focus is on the feeding and finishing phases. After arrival, the animals and you settle into the feeding phases. You want to set up and manage each feeding phase to provide adequate nutrition, water, shade, pen space, etc. Pasture-based feeding phases does not mean that the cattle are on autopilot. They too must be managed, ideally with daily observation. Managing pasture residual height is the key for managing the growing animals' worm burdens. Chores should be fairly routine on well-managed operations, with the occasional pull of a sick animal. Set up your facility to make treating individual cattle easy. Cattle are prey animals and they want to stay with the group. So if you cannot treat one individual in the pen, then bring one or two with the sick one through your chute, and then return all of them, including the sick animal, back to the home pen. Keep vigilant to make sure it can compete with its pen mates. Otherwise, you may have to sort it to a treatment pen. Treatment pens can be very difficult to manage. They should be separate from the healthy pens and have access to their own water. And as the social hierarchies are in flux, they can be very difficult for the sick animal to recover in. And here it is again, record keeping. You can't manage what you don't record. From your daily tasks to shoot events to care for the individual animals, you have to work with the record-keeping system that works for you, easy to keep up with, and from which you can review to make future decisions. Let's talk about our finished or our fat cattle. Of course, we market healthy animals that are not showing disease symptoms. We do not want to injure cattle or increase the risk for dark cutters on their way out of the feedlot to the harvest facility. Calm stockmanship comes into play, along with adequate facilities as we load these cattle. Check your records to make sure that the animals are clear of all drug withdrawals. Score their mobility to determine if they are fit for transport, fit to haul today, or to postpone hauling after treatment or other intervention is completed, or determine that they are never likely to be fit. Those should be butchered for your own consumption or euthanized. Mobility is an important factor to consider when deciding if an animal is fit for transport and will successfully navigate transportation and the walk through the slaughter facility. Mobility is scored on a 1 to 4 point scale, with 1 walking normally, with no limp, no hesitation. A score of 2 walks a bit abnormal, but the animal keeps up with the others. Cattle with mobility scores of either 1 or 2 are fit for transport. Prevent mobility issues that could occur close to the loadout day by feeding a good trace mineral package. You want to avoid any potential nutritional deficiencies. Use low stress handling at loadout. Don't ask cattle to run. These heavy fed cattle are couch potatoes, and asking all of those muscles to rapidly move is one of the causes of fatigued cattle syndrome, or tying up to the point that they can go down in the trailer or be unable to navigate the slaughter facility. Stage cattle near loadout a day or 2 before shipping. Place the loadout where they normally congregate, rather than asking them to leave through a new novel gate. Don't overload transport, which can cause crushing injuries. Market cattle are big, and they have the most risk for injury and crushing because they have much more weight and much more force to apply to each other. An animal scored as a 3 has a pronounced limp. It's not keeping up with the others. You want to reassess the 3s or only transport them with special provisions, such as a short trip directly to a local locker plant and housed in the back compartment of the trailer by itself. These animals are too risky to take through a sale barn. A score of 4 is exhibiting an extreme reluctance to move. It's statue-like. Three-legged lame. Doesn't want to walk. Do not send these animals. They're still standing, but they are likely to become a downer. You need to assess and make treatment decisions about them, especially don't transport 4s. Assess or diagnose why there are 3s and 4s. This could be because of lameness, foot rot, or hairy heel wart. It also could be due to metabolic acidosis or fatigued cattle syndrome, which is the buildup of lactic acid in their bloodstream from damaged muscles, or muscle exertion that presents clinically as the statue-likeness or the shakiness with muscle tremors. Manage heavy feeders to prevent injuries, which can lead to bruising, and the creation of dark cutting meat. Dark cutting beef refers to muscle tissue that fails to turn that typical cherry red when exposed to air, as seen by this steak on the left. Dark cutting beef, the picture on the right, is most often associated with pre-slaughter stress. Environmental factors such as extreme cold, rain, or heat, along with weather fluctuations, can lead to temporary glycogen depletions. Cattle that become excitable during sorting, hauling, penning, and overcrowding can be candidates for dark cutting. Holding cattle off feed for 1 or 2 days can also lead to dark cutting beef. Since many heifers are fed MGA to prevent them from coming into heat, heifers held off feed too long before slaughter can result in the higher percentage of those heifers coming into heat with the accompanying dark cutter problem. Overaggressive or misuse of growth-promoting implants has also been implicated with dark cutting beef. Records are not just for reducing the risk of antibiotic residues, but this is one very important use of them by using your records to identify animals that have received animal health products. Calculate the safe-to-ship date using the products labeled withdrawal time and note that in the health record as you administer the product. Check these records to make sure that withdrawal times have been met before the cattle are loaded onto the trailer. Surveillance testing is conducted by the United States Department of Agriculture Food Safety Inspection Service. The agency conducts tests for chemicals, including antibiotics and various other drugs, pesticides, and environmental agents in meat, poultry, and egg products that are destined for human consumption. FSIS and the USDA issue a weekly report of residue repeat violators. This report lists the names of farms or ranches with addresses and the phone number of those that have had more than one reported residue violation in the past 12 months. This report protects the buyers from purchasing from repeat offenders. The minimum withdrawal time is the longest withdrawal time required for any product given. Each withdrawal day is a full 24 hours after the last treatment. Take a look at this red header. These are the things that need to be recorded. For example, if the last time the animal number 23, was treated was at 6 a.m. on Monday, when would the withdrawal period be concluded? Well, we don't know till we look at that label. And we see from the label that the withdrawal period is 6 days. So the day we give it on June 1st, we can right away calculate our withdrawal period. 6 days after the last treatment dose means that this animal, number 23, would have its withdrawal period met by June 7th at 6 a.m. Now let's add another record to this animal's treatment. On June 15th, the animal received a poron. Given this information, would this animal be safe for harvest on June 30th? Well, we don't know. We have to calculate the withdrawal period based off of the last product given. So we check that label of that pour-on and we see that it's a 28 withdrawal. So can this animal be shipped on June 30th? It's clear off of the June 1st treatment, but as we calculate the pour-on's withdrawal treatment, we see that it's not clear for the second treatment until July 13th. In the case of an animal offered medicated feed or water, the withdrawal time begins after physical removal of the entire product and/or cleaning and flushing of the water supply. All cattle marketed from the operation can potentially go directly to harvest. Therefore, all records must be checked to ensure that treated animals will meet or exceed label withdrawal times for all the products. Extended withdrawal times should be expected for emaciated or severely debilitated animals or if multiple treatments have been given. Record keeping relies on individual identification, so you will also need to place an ear dangle or a radio frequency identification or RFID tag. This will require the use of taggers, and if using an RFID, you may also need the wand or the wand reader, as is shown in the middle lower picture. You will need animal restraint provided by a chute with access to both ears and a head catch. You may also need a halter or nose lead to restrain the head while applying the tags. Place the dangle tags within the middle third of the ear between the cartilage ribs, and be cognizant of implant placement, as implants are placed on the back side of the same area. Save an ear for the implant. Make sure to securely close the tags while using compatible front and back tag components and the compatible ear tagging pliers. Place the RFID tag within the first quarter from the animal's head, also between the rises of the cartilage ribs. Brands are to be placed on the hip near the tail head. Group identification of cattle is acceptable along with keeping group treatment records, as long as no one animal leaves that pen until the withdrawal period has been met for all of the animals in the pen. The electronic identification tags, or EID tags, are linked to your premises registration, and along with your own management uses, they play a vital biosecurity role for disease traceability in our local, state, national, and international community. As of November 6, 2024, they serve as the form of official identification required when cattle you own are being tested or vaccinated for regulatory diseases that require official identification, such as brucellosis, tuberculosis, or Johne's. And these tags are also required when moving cattle between states for interstate movement. That's what the E stands for, between states. The classes of cattle and bison needing official identification remains the same, those being sexually intact beef and dairy who are greater than 18 months of age, and this applies when feeding beef on dairy cross calves as they are considered dairy. All cattle and bison of any age used for exhibitions also need official identification. You do not need to use official ID if your cattle never leave home and are not part of the regulatory disease process. EID tags are uniquely issued to the premises. The 840 series is the number that indicates the United States. You can order them and the wand readers from the Wisconsin Identification Consortium, DATCAP, and animal health suppliers. Check with both states involved with the interstate movement, as other forms of ID may be acceptable. Work with your vet, as most likely these movements will also require a certificate of veterinary inspection, or a CVI, that your vet completes. This concludes part 2 of veterinary skills for receiving cattle. You are welcome to contact us for additional information. and check out our many resources available online at Extension Livestock.